Charles, I failed to program music today.
That's okay. We have the delightful music in the background. That's children screaming, I think, at the playground. That's what we were hearing. Maybe we should go for a
with
stroll.
glee, perhaps. But, well, there's a couple things first.
Sure.
I don't know if you heard this, but the Democrat Party has announced that the cisgender name Charles is sexist.
You mean Charisse?
No, you can choose between Charisse, Z spelled with an X, or them. That's it. Anything else, unacceptable.
Yeah, it's amazing. The number of emails that I now get. I don't know how I got on these lists, but I now get, 20 or 30 emails a day, evenly split pretty much between those addressed from Republicans to Charles and those addressed most recently by Barack Obama to me personally. Charisse. What's with that?
Yeah. So Charles, we've got the dog run here. We're back in Madison Square Park, and the dog run appears to be back in business. I don't know who Jemmy is, but it's a nice little area for dogs to make friends.
This is quite big for a dog run.
Yeah, this is a big dog run. And I don't know, I think it's a nice way for people to socialize with other dog owners and for dogs to have dog friends and stuff.
How come the dogs aren't wearing masks?
Exactly. I actually did see a thing that said that dogs can carry coronaviruses.
Right.
But there's been no talk about that, no protection against anything like that. People are still bringing dogs into supermarkets and stuff as long as they got a mask on the person.
Yeah. So this is 23rd Street and 5th, the intersection of 5th and Broadway, which in the early 1900s was really the center of commercial New York. And this park went derelict, as we've discussed before, in the 70s. But now you look at it and you see it's far from derelict. It's kind of nice, actually.
Oh, yeah.
And people seem to be out and about. If you go back and review some of our prior broadcasts, this place was empty in the very beginning, in the May time frame. But now look at all these people. Now look at those seats. You think they...
Well, the thing I'm noticing, Charles, is that there's more people out today not wearing masks, which I congratulate. It's the thing to do. Perhaps everybody saw the Berlin march yesterday and felt that we're sick of all this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, how big did that thing end up being? Do you want to show people Shake Shack and then circle back around? Or?
I could smell Shake Shack. It smells good. And the line is back. So there are certain signs of things returning to life.
The line is back at the Shack.
It smells good.
It does. It's, the secret ingredient is grease.
Right.
And fat, I suppose.
Well, actually, I spoke too soon. That is nothing like the line they usually have. The line usually extends sort of out of this little gravel pit around the edge of the park over there, and it can be huge.
Nonetheless, though, it's pretty big. I mean,
it's better than zero, which is what it's been for a long time.
Yeah.
So where do we want our walking tour to go?
I'd say we go up to Madison and,
Sure.
and maybe as far as 34th or 42nd and down 5th, and then to Union Square.
It's a beautiful day today, Charles. It's
in
not
the
too
neighborhood.
hot.
Yeah, it is indeed. So a lot of news. Donald Trump retweeted the Babylon Bee wind-up that I think you and I both found hysterical, of Joe Biden saying, you think the enthusiasm is great at the Republican convention, just wait until we do ours. And Trump retweeted that. So that's interesting.
Did you see this, Charles, in the park? They've got these circles painted for where you can hang out. That's your social distancing.
What's happened there? I guess there's no circle there?
I don't know if people are abiding by
They're not
them.
in the circle of trust?
They're wearing masks, so they can do whatever they want, including yell at us. It does say wear a face covering unless you're 6 feet from others.
Right.
But again, it could say brush your teeth, and people might choose to not do that.
Yeah, and New York is kind of a place where there are a lot of rules and very few people abide by them.
Well, hopefully people abide by most of them, but this guy sleeping reminds me of a tweet somebody sent me where somebody made a creative video edit where they took a video of Joe Biden sleeping on his podcast. Apparently it came from that thing with Hillary.
Really?
And he cut it with another piece of video of a news broadcaster interviewing somebody who had fallen asleep in the news broadcast and created this false thing that made it look like
Joe Biden slept.
Biden fell asleep during the interview, which he did not. Now here's another one of these helicopters, Charles. We've seen a lot of them today.
Is it black?
I can't tell.
It suggests there's something going on around here.
I don't know.
Maybe somebody coming down from Fifth Avenue.
There were a huge number of explosions the other night.
Yeah.
Turned out to be a lot of fireworks going on.
Celebrating what?
I don't know. I think
India Day or something? I mean,
just trying to keep people on the edge of their seats nervous. And that worked. Now, Charles, people are still not able to see us on the 114,000 subscriber strong Jason Goodman YouTube channel due to a malicious strike from the president of television.
That's really a pity and unfair. I mean, we think about the degree to which there's editorial control across the networks, now even the big cable channels. Fox News is restricting true conservative content, commentary. So they've shut down, of course, the print media. The magazines are fundamentally mostly gone, and then major national newspapers wouldn't report, have done precious little reporting, for example, on the Clinton Foundation, but jump all over the NRA, jump all over Steve Bannon, jump all over the Trump Foundation. So it does seem as if the YouTube and other formats ought to welcome the full spectrum of responsible views, of which I think everything that we put.
I was getting a ticket for something. So that's amazing that the cops, when I get assaulted, I'm sorry to interrupt, Charles, but when I get assaulted, they refuse to do anything. But when this guy parks in the crosswalk or in a commercial vehicles only section, you need two cops to give him a ticket.
Well, we don't know why he was pulled over, especially this car is going the wrong direction. So it must have been more than just a parking ticket.
I don't know.
I mean, how did that car get there? Right? I mean,
we could interview that guy, but
no.
We'll leave him alone, but it doesn't look like he's doing anything as egregious as assaulting somebody and smacking their property out of their hands. But Charles, you were pointing out how YouTube should be the last bastion of freedom of speech.
Right. I mean, it's YouTube. Apparently, there's now people get a lot more news off YouTube than they do off of the fake news, the supposed real news. And I actually am hearing more and more from acquaintances who now have watched our shows and your other shows, and I think in the beginning they thought I'd gone off the deep end doing podcasts, because I'd been on traditional TV and media a lot. And now I think people are tired, as you say, the mainstream cable stuff is descending in production quality.
Right.
And it also is interrupted by, bent crank ads and My Pillow ads.
I love it that they have a pill for that.
There's an app for that,
You think you would need a cast or something.
Yeah.
Well, they're also sick of the content, Charles, because it's obviously not dealing with facts and evidence. I think when people turn on CNN and MSNBC and hear Democrat candidates and supporters talking about how these are peaceful protests while they watch cities burn, people get shot. It's now come to just outright shooting people for walking down the street. In Portland, some guy just got straight shot.
Yeah, and on Twitter, we were talking about just now off air that on Twitter, somebody has threatened to kill white Trump supporters, including specifically Laura Loomer. And that person's account, as of moments ago, was still on Twitter.
Amazing.
And look, I think that kind of stuff has to be dealt with quickly and effectively. You're going to get hotheads who will say things just to get attention. But Steve Scalise was shot and nearly killed because of this type of incendiary speech while he was practicing for a baseball game. I mean, of all people, where are the responsible Democrats, if any are left, immediately standing up and landing on Jack Dorsey and joining with Republicans to say, look, you can't do this. This person, it's probably not even the handle I saw did not appear to be a real name, but to be kind of a fake name.
Oh, a sock puppet?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
So
that's how they do it, Charles. These people are too cowardly to present their points of view with their real identities, so they make false identities, false accounts, and then they try to equate themselves to the founding fathers who had to use pen names. But the founding fathers were speaking out against the king, not targeting.
Well, at a very different
individuals.
time, too. I mean, we've been over this before.
Look at how WeWork is always trying to jam up the broadcast.
So back in 1776, when Americans resident here were subjects of the British monarch, the law was such that if you did what Thomas Jefferson and others did
Be
and
put to
lost,
death.
worse, you were, there's no good way to be put to death, but you were hanged, drawn, and quartered, which means that you were hanged nearly till death. Then, you were not quite killed, but you were not in good shape. Then they dragged you through the streets, to the worst part of the streets, through the garbage everywhere, and then to the outskirts, and then they cut your body into four pieces, cut off your head, put it on a pike.
But don't they not cut it? They use horses to rip it.
Maybe that's right. But the worst part of it is if you were somebody like Jefferson or these wealthier people back then, your heirs could not inherit your property. So it was, you thought long and hard before you took on the king, and these people got to a point where they felt they had to, and they did, and they won. I don't think we're there when we have these spoiled trust fund kids, going from Portland, as I think they did, to, where was it, to Kenosha.
Oh yeah.
Trying to whip up people into a frenzy, and you've got the local residents saying, look what's happening to our neighborhoods, our real estate value. Businesses are leaving, cities are becoming unsafe and uninhabitable, and the trust funders don't care, and probably some of them in Antifa are actually children of people like George Soros, if he has any spawn, who are...
He does.
Does he? Oh, that's right,
This
he does.
guy's on Twitter.
Yeah, but probably some of these trust funders are beneficiaries of investment funds that actually profit from chaos and violence.
What?
Yeah. Well, that's a trivial thing to do.
Charles, I've been trying to avoid interrupting, but there's been a lot of businesses, even just as we've walked this way, that are out, that were not out the last time we were over here.
I know. Well, what Nimrod would invest capital in New York right now, knowing that Kaiser Wilhelm de Blasio is going to be on top of the levers of power through, I think, the end of 2021, and he may get, who knows, God forbid, reelected if that's possible.
I just can't see that.
Or somebody worse,
There was something I saw about somebody in his cabinet who they said is the favorite for the mayoral run.
Yeah, well,
I forget who it was.
probably Goofy.
I don't know.
But yeah, this where we are now in Madison. We're walking north, and this has become fancy furniture row. All of these are famous. I think that's an Italian one. That's a Brazilian one.
They
Famous.
got Roche Boubois.
It's French. Fancy designers have their showcases here, and they ask you to overpay for these sectional couches, which I frankly never find those kind of things comfortable to sit in. I don't know about you.
But not only that, the first time I ever started looking at furniture, I was amazed at how expensive it was. Like couches are like $15,000
Right.
and more in these places. I was thinking maybe I should get into the furniture making business.
You could do it. What's that? 3D print it.
I have a 3D printer, but the couch would be about the right size for the Hillary Clinton puppet.
Oh boy.
I'm trying to think, did I 3D print anything for that video? I don't know. I don't think so.
So, yeah, normally this section of the city is dead quiet on the weekend. This particular, there are some high-end condos on this in and around here. There used to be hotels, but most of those are not open. So, I'm not particularly shocked by the absence of people here. On the other hand, when we go down Fifth, we're going to see probably a large number of additional stores out.
Charles, this Tesla reminds me that I wanted to tell you that Elon Musk had a press conference kind of product launch event for his brain chip, the Neuralink.
Involving pigs, yeah.
Yeah, he presented a pig that's had the chip in it for 2 months, and they showed kind of the data feed coming from the pig's brain.
That's
And I
really-
mean, you know, setting aside the ethical questions of sticking things into pigs' brains, and everybody is upset about Elon Musk being a deep state, whatever. It is fascinating to be able to monitor the brain. I mean, they're literally sticking 1,024 microscopic, like much thinner than a hair, things into your brain, and they had a neurosurgeon there talking about it and talking about existing technologies that connect to the brain and measure the brain and how this is going to be more advanced. But I will add, they were talking about recording memories
right.
and then reading from the brain and writing to the brain. So
What
basically
could-
uploading.
What could possibly go wrong with that?
They're talking about programming your brain like
Right.
it's a hard drive.
Right. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's not going to work well.
I don't want that chip.
Yeah.
But he also spoke about how, like, if you break your back and can't walk, this thing could take the signals from the brain and have another thing down at the base of the spine and kind of bridge the gap and help people walk who have spinal injuries. That's
Right.
fascinating from a medical standpoint.
If that's true, you know, and it would help in in numerical terms, a very small number of cases. But as a guess, what they want to do is they want to
Program people's brains. Yes, I agree. Or just make a society eventually. Like, think about it, Charles. At some point in the 50s or the 60s or whatever, somebody related to some people we know might have made a presentation saying, hey, look at this wireless phone.
Right.
And you'd be like, who needs that? I'll just pick up the phone on the wire. And now, almost nobody conducts business without the wireless phone. And if you don't have one, you're kind of
You're,
not able to participate in certain things. What happens if that happens with the brain chip?
yeah, well, let's hope that brain chip doesn't become a thing. Now, this used to be B. Altman's, a very large department store. That went out of business a while ago.
This?
Yeah, the whole building. And then it was divided. It was a huge department store. Really nice one, actually.
When did that go out?
Oh, I want to say in the early 90s, late 80s.
Yeah, gotta be late 80s. I don't ever remember that, but it says New York Public Library.
Yeah, this is the business library. This portion of it, it's I think under renovation now, but it's a very good library, and this is Oxford University Press.
Ah, so we've got double-cross agents in there, Rhodes Scholars. I wonder, they must have the J.C. Masterman double-cross
Curricula?
book.
Yeah.
Well, he's the MI6 agent who wrote a book about how they turned Nazi agents into British spies.
Yeah. So going back through then to going back to Joe Biden and his disastrous performance, after the Democrat non-intervention convention, normally a good, well-managed campaign would see a big bounce in favor of the candidate, Democrats,
right.
and instead they got a downward bounce. And then the Trump convention, which I think was really pretty well orchestrated.
I agree.
The content was good, the delivery was very impressive, particularly for the people, many of whom were just ordinary people, not television actors or celebrities with experience behind the camera. And they were very relatable. The stories were very poignant, in some cases dramatically poignant. Here we have a nice encampment.
I saw the one that you were telling me about with the parents of the girl who was kidnapped.
Right.
How she was a humanitarian aid worker who somebody invited her to help them with a hospital in Syria, and then she
Right.
got captured there.
Now,
I can't believe those parents were able to deliver that without crying.
well, it was worse than that even. She was selected to be al-Baghdadi's personal sex slave and tortured by him personally. And you have all these progressives saying, well, it was wrong of Trump to assassinate al-Baghdadi. Whereas the real message should be, you go, we haven't yet examined who created ISIS. I think Michael Flynn would believe, and Hillary
Barack
Clinton
Obama,
admitted
yeah.
that she and Barack did. So before we go there, if you're going to behave in this fashion, and the strongest military power in the world with troops in the region just says, oh, that's fine, why don't you do more of this? That to me is treason right there. But if this story is true by the parents, which I have every reason to believe it is true.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, because to be fair, if the shoe were on the other foot and the Democrats presented a family like this, we would be examining the veracity of the story. How do we know? How did they find out all these details?
Well, I think perhaps because ISIS reached out and wanted a ransom, is a guess. Or people on behalf of ISIS wanted money. And were holding out the possibility that she would get money. She would deliver money. So anyway, that convention for the Democrats on its own was a disaster. But comparing the two, the contrast between the two was another disaster. And so immediately, what's the reaction? We're seeing Michael Moore, the big fat Michael Moore, instead of eating less and maybe replacing Oprah as a weight loss guy, it said, look, you guys better watch out. There's tremendous enthusiasm for Trump. There's an enthusiasm disparity. Democrats are in trouble, and this is 2016 all over again. You have Bill Maher saying the same thing. And so what's the reaction now? The reaction is violence. Let's see if we can't intimidate conservatives and people who might vote for Trump with threats of violence and actual violence. And I'm sorry. There is no difference I'm aware of across the political spectrum that at this stage needs to be resolved with violence, even if that were possible. Right? I mean, you're talking about, around the world, you're talking about technology obviating the need for human labor at a time when more and more people who used to be in the bush, are coming into cities, are getting connected on the internet and wanted to be part of the wage economy.
So you can download your brain to a pig and send him to work.
Right. Work from your home sty.
Yeah.
Slop around in the sty, and, right? So the sensible politicians across the aisle should be saying, look, what we need to do, given our mammoth debt at government level, is we need to encourage capital coming in the country. Saying that we're at the prospect of another civil war to resolve differences that I don't really believe exist in the way they're being sold is incredibly irresponsible, if not worse than that. It's citing rebellion. And how come no Democrats smacking down Nancy Pelosi, smacking down?
They're blaming Trump for all the violence. They say this is Trump's America.
That's what Biden just said today.
I know.
He truly is. I'll relate without saying exactly who this is from. I am hearing through the grapevine that people who've been sort of gamely playing along, hanging around with progressives in the young crowd, have finally had enough. I mean, the allegations against Biden involving going after women, including terror.
Beyond Tara Reid?
Well, not just Tara Reid. There's a bunch of them.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the question marks over, is he a true progressive? Is he a true moderate? How did he make his money? What's up with Hunter Biden? All that kind of stuff. Is he going to fight China? You get to a certain point and you make excuses until you get to the decision where you say, I can't support this shit anymore. And finally, I think when Trump delivered, not only during the convention, but on the rally on Friday, I'm hearing a number of people just saying, enough. I'm either not voting or I'm actually going to hold my nose and vote for Trump.
I think it's going to be a landslide. That's a second Essen Foods closed right there, Charles. So that's a chain that's pretty big.
That was expanding all over the city, Essen, before.
I don't think it's doing that now. It's contracting.
Yeah, I think it's toilet bowling.
Cratering.
Shall we walk? Do we have the energy to walk up to Trump Tower?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
go wherever you want to go. It's a lot cooler today, so I don't know that we're going to...
That's why I almost wore my overcoat.
Right. I mean, I don't think we're going to have any overheating problems today, but, Charles, I think a lot of people might have been, even if you're not a Republican or a Trump supporter, pretty shocked to see the aggressive nature in which the crowd was encroaching upon Rand Paul and his wife when they left a presidential speech. I mean, like you said, This is a rebellion. There are people out in the street who are just openly walking with firearms, not here in New York City that I've seen,
Right.
but 30 murders over the weekend last week. Who knows what the number will be tomorrow?
Right.
Huge explosions on Thursday night here in New York City. Criminals are emboldened and have this feeling that they can do whatever they want. Charles, what is this?
This is 10 Vanderbilt Avenue. It's a gigantic building that has been going up for over a year. It's quite, I think it's a
Oh yeah, that's
Tishman.
Wow, they built that so fast. We're already at Grand Central.
Yeah. Let's make the,
Yeah.
it's very well located building, assuming you want to remain in this hellhole. I mean, New York.
Right, who's going to rent anything in that?
So,
So Rand Paul and his wife
Yeah.
attacked by the mob.
and Rand Paul's wife wrote a very touching letter that she feared for her life. And you have to remember what this does. Rand Paul was a candidate against Trump in 15-16. He was pretty tough on Trump in the debates and afterwards. He is an ophthalmologist, I believe. Don't forget his father has got a massive following.
Yeah.
And they weren't really on board with Trump until
Now they are.
now they most certainly are. And I think you're beginning to see the Democrats' worst nightmare. You're seeing, first of all, Trump delivering on his promises. And the line, look at this, there's no stores anywhere. The line that, one of the most effective lines of the convention was when he said that Washington is mad at him. He's on purpose trying to bump into you.
I saw that.
Yeah. Washington's mad at you for, political Washington, for breaking the essential, for doing the opposite of what they do. He kept his promises. And he really has kept a hell of a lot of promises. First, in the first 2 years, with the closet Democrat, pretend rhino Paul Ryan obstructing, working with Democrats to obstruct the Trump agenda.
Wasn't he a vice presidential candidate
With Romney.
Right.
With Ratney. So in that 17-18 period, he had a lot of headwinds. But then, of course, he was impeached in 1920. And despite all that, he's managed to achieve, for Americans at large, more than any other president, other than perhaps maybe Roosevelt, if you think his accomplishments were significant. I wouldn't necessarily say that many of them were that great, but he's achieved a tremendous amount. And that's obvious if you want to look at the facts, right? And so you're seeing, I think, a realignment amongst the people who really follow this stuff closely. They're saying, you know what, he's going to win. He's going to win big. And this idea of continuing to support the wacky non-ideas, the wacky non-ideas of AOC and others is going to cost the Dems, I think, much more in the Senate and House and down-ticket elections than they're so confidently assuming right now. I also think people around the world, the Chinese, the Iranians, the Venezuelans, and others who are interested in trying to fuck around with Donald Trump are reconsidering, because they're seeing the handwriting on the wall here, and Trump in a second term is not going to be restrained.
Right. That's what I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah,
Trump Unchained.
we've done that.
I know. De Trumpo Unchained. What about Shinzo Abe having to leave due to ulcerative colitis?
Yeah, he's a sympathetic character. I guess he was, wasn't he Japan's longest serving prime minister or something like that? He had several terms. He had a term and then he went out of power and then came back in power for a number of terms, but he seemed to be a real friend of the U.S.
I agree, and certainly of Donald Trump, one of the first international leaders he met with, and they made a big deal of him going to Japan and Trump eating a hamburger at some restaurant
At a
that
sushi restaurant.
introduced the Donald Trump burger, and that was a line around the block for people to eat that.
Still is.
I believe, people can look this up, but I think stomach cancer is actually a
Very
big problem in Japan. I wonder if there's a genetic propensity towards these kind of problems that maybe Shinzo Abe has.
Plus, I think the diet has something to do with it, perhaps. But
Yeah, they've been nuked more than anybody also.
So
Between
far.
Fukushima and...
so far. So,
Yeah, Charles, you planning something for later this week?
No, not at all. Not at all. But
Everyone thinks you've got the nuclear football in this
I
jacket.
do. It's actually, it's right here. I'm hiding it right here.
Good.
What's this? Is this building come down? It did.
Wow.
This is the J.P. Morgan building.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, it's funny. You stay locked in the apartment for a week or two, and then you come out. People don't realize how New York is like a living thing. When I used to divide my time between here and LA, I'd leave for 2-3 weeks at a time and come back, and it would really, things happen that you're like, whoa, including that
Amazing.
missing building.
Yeah, this is the short side of the J.P. Morgan gigantic headquarters. It's going to build a monstrous building, like 70, 80 stories high.
Wow.
I was hearing that in the middle of it, they're going to have an indoor forest.
Wow, that sounds very Dubai of them.
I don't know. And here's prime territory.
How come
Space
that
available.
bar says we'll be back? Space, that's closed.
That's called optimism. So now we're heading closer into Prime Hotel District, and what once was Prime Shopping District. Generally, Madison Avenue is pretty quiet, but you'll see that Fifth, when we come back the other way, is bone quiet.
Charles, here's more medical advice.
What's that?
Video games are good for you.
Is that from Fauci?
This is the Games for Change virtual festival.
Already happened.
Oh, right.
So one of the things I've been doing, anticipating and following up on Catherine Herridge's tweet, Catherine being the former longtime Fox reporter who went over to CBS, she tweeted a pretty lengthy tweet out suggesting that Durham is finally going to drop some indictments by 15 September. And many people have been patient for years, literally years, wondering what the hell is taking so long. And I think what's taking so long is that this scandal is bipartisan, it is generational, it involves not simply billions, but maybe hundreds of billions. It involves many countries, and the consequences of exposing a piece of it will lead to exposing most of it. So people have been fighting like hell not to expose it.
Possibly up to and including William Barr.
Possibly, indeed. And so one of the realizations that I've come to, perhaps late, is that the great Stuart Dean was much smarter than even we gave him credit for.
Oh, Stuart, who's been on our show?
Several times, yeah.
Yes, and he's the guy who introduced me, at least, to the double-wide trailer and the mini
Right.
golf course on the roof.
But he questioned, before we were all focused primarily on the transgressions of the charity, he raised the question, not only is it a charity, but is it even a corporation? And so I had 2 10-part tweets out this morning, early afternoon, going through some of those details. And it's actually kind of shocking. And I actually spoke to a very senior lawyer today about it as well, confirming my suspicions. If you, for an instant, don't have articles of incorporation that are in place, you're not a corporation. And it's not like you could time phone hack your way back and say, oh yeah, let me put these together today in 2020 and I'll say they were in place in 2005.
That's amazing.
So there are, at this moment, and ever since April 25th or 28th,
Florsheim out of business, Charles.
wow,
What do you think of that?
what am I going to do?
I mean, that's your kind of shoe place.
No, it isn't.
No?
No, I don't
I
like
thought
it.
those are fancy.
No,
Bruno Mali?
that's your kind of stuff.
I don't know.
But anyway,
Adidas is more my style.
so this thing has not had articles of incorporation since April 25th or 28th, depending on how you want to look at it, 2005.
What about in 1997 when they made the library?
Well, when they first put it together, this thing has never had articles of incorporation that were formally adopted by trustees who had no conflicts of interest. There were 3 incorporators who owed millions of dollars to firms, basically. Two or three firms who owed millions of dollars collectively. And just at the time where the Clintons lost a key Supreme Court decision that would have, had they not handled it the way they handled it, would have led to Bill likely being removed from office. Lawyers were starting to say, look, we need some money here.
They always say that.
Yeah, well,
What's with these lawyers?
Well, they've been working for free or without getting paid currently for the Clintons.
Are you sure those were lawyers, Charles?
Yeah, very sure. And so, as I think about it, there's no evidence that trustees came together and had formally adopted articles of incorporation that were in compliance with Arkansas state and federal laws on file at the Clinton Foundation website and then generally around the world. No evidence of that. Instead, we have articles of incorporation which don't conform, don't comply, and really were not amended to be specific enough to deal with the particular requirements that apply to presidential archives. But beyond that, yeah, articles of incorporation are like the formal birth certificate of a corporation. Yeah, here it is. This is what we do. This is actually a
I have them for mine.
Okay, yeah. So bylaws are the rules of the road, how the trustees or directors are going to operate. So since April 25th, 2005, there are no bylaws for any entity whose legal name is registered properly.
Do what thou willst.
Exactly. So do as I say, not as I do, do.
But that do what thou willst, that comes from Aleister Crowley and is basically their motto. You do whatever the hell you want.
Right, that makes sense.
And then nobody else can do that, just us.
Yeah.
That's justice.
That's
just us.
Injustice.
X7, that's gigantic.
Yeah. Wow.
This is closed, Charles.
Yeah, I'm not particularly
Is that
into
candy or jewelry?
That's, I thought it was glass. Ladro, some kind of glass.
This is a chocolate place. So yeah, these are all like fancy. I mean, this would normally be open. What does that sign say? We're sorry after years we're closed?
Due to technical difficulties with our HVAC unit, we're closed.
Huh.
This is like we've come back to America after it fell.
Right. The watch places are still loaded with watches. They're pretty bold. I'm surprised that hasn't been smashed in and stolen.
I bet you the glass is pretty tough.
Yeah.
So for the years where I worked, informally worked, I worked in that building, the Jeffries building. I worked in the building over there, International Watch Company. And so I have a certain amount of experience telling you what this should be like.
And this ain't it.
This ain't it. We're almost close to Donald Trump land. So the second thing that I tweeted out, which struck me after I did the first 10-part tweet, has to do with Valerie Jarrett.
Oh, yeah.
Valerie Jarrett, by many accounts, is supposedly a highly intelligent, experienced lawyer. She went to Stanford University, and she went then to University of Michigan Law School.
Isn't her father some kind of huge professor? He's a doctor?
No, that's, father was, I don't know if he's still alive, but was a doctor. He was working for a wealthy, controversial family in Shiraz, Iran, when she was born, November 14th, 1956.
What's the significance of that?
I'm going to tell you in a second. So, on November 14th, 2008 was her 52nd birthday. It happened as well to be the day that Barack Obama formally appointed her to be head or co-head of the transition team. He had just won this election. And the Clinton Foundation had to submit an audit to New York State for 2007 results in prior years on the Monday, on the 17th.
Right.
On the 16th, a Sunday, mind you, she'd had her 52nd birthday on Friday, probably had a birthday party. She had the big press announcement she was going to be the most powerful person basically working inside the administration, not at cabinet level. with the ear of the president and the influence, the close relationship she had with the president. And 2 days later, on the 16th, her signature and her handwriting appeared to date this memorandum of understanding.
Oh, the change 12?
The changed, later changed to 12, that states that the Clinton Foundation, okay.
What's this guy waving at?
Huh? The Clinton Foundation is, it states in this document, signed on a Sunday, that the Clinton Foundation is a 501c3 charitable organization comprised of the library and 7 initiatives. And none of that is true. On that weekend, it had no articles of incorporation, it had no bylaws, it had no tax return for 1997, it had fraudulent tax returns from 98 through 2006, it had no audits, it had no legal authority to operate outside Little Rock, and in addition, we've talked in the past before that Kumiki Gibson had sent a memo to the CEO, let's go up to 57th and down, to Bruce Lindsay, bemoaning the many problems in the Clinton Foundation. This is before she signs, days before she signs.
Trump is over there.
I know, but I'm figuring we go past Tiffany's and
Hang on.
let people see the full sweep of, here we go. The question before the court is, how much diligence could Valerie Jarrett have done on this Clinton Foundation? She signs the document on a Sunday, right? And no part of it's true. The next day they had to get an audit together to meet New York State requirements, which are very tough. Hillary Clinton is a sitting senator in New York. I should say a waddling senator in New York. And, her foundation, whatever became the Bill Hillary and Chelsea Clinton Foundation, that foundation is in gross violation of the law. And in addition, the Clinton Family Foundation, which I would argue also is in gross violation of the law, had been contributing heavily to this thing. So that creates problems for the Family Foundation. Now, which way do you want to go? Across the street and over, or do you want to go down this way?
Let's go across and then we'll look back
Okay.
this way. So that sounds like she did no diligence, Charles.
Well, or more, or worse, conspired with the Clintons.
Right.
Right? I mean, you would
Little
think
doubt.
that if she's so smart, in charge of the transition team, the number one position representing the country outside the United States is Secretary of State. A lot of shit going down in 2008. You would think you'd want to check pretty carefully the qualifications and potential defects of your Secretary of State. And instead of shutting Bill Clinton down, Barack Obama and Valerie allowed Bill Clinton, to hold a Clinton Global Initiative Summit, December 1st, 2nd time frame, in Hong Kong. Think about that.
I know. I've thought about it quite a bit. It's crazy.
How does that make any sense? You have most of the Asia Pacific region movers and shakers all say, well, I better get to Hong Kong, shake Bill Clinton's hand, and give him, a check or a wire or
jam
something.
a couple $100 in there.
100.
Well,
Try a million.
When you shake the hand, right?
Right.
It's hard to palm $1 million.
That's why you use wire transfers to the
That's
Clinton
right.
Foundation. So, I mean, you look at all this and you start to say, now, do you think possibly that whatever emails would have been flying around in this time frame would be of interest to the FBI, trying to figure out whether the Clinton Foundation was a fraud?
No.
And what influence was being peddled for what cash in this time frame? You would have thought that any email investigation done later, under duress most likely by the FBI, would countenance a period prior to January 21st, 2009. But no, not the investigation under Comey. They should have gone right the way back to 1997 and beforehand to understand the origins of the Clinton Foundation. Want to go across and down, or?
Yeah. Charles, the FBI is amazing. They can investigate emails without ever looking at the server. They don't even need the evidence.
They don't even need a washcloth to wipe it clean.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So, are you this side or that side?
Whatever you want
No,
to do.
you're the boss.
Let's go this way and see
Okay.
what's going on. I mean,
So-
it looks to be like really no. Look at that Jaguar, Charles.
Nice. So another thing that I lay out in these tweets is that there's a form that's filed by the Clinton Foundation, marked received May 12th. It's intimidating. Secret Service.
Yeah, well, this look more like babysitters.
I know. Would you like to go to Build-A-Bear?
That might have been sexist of me to say.
No,
I just
it
meant
just looked
because of their age and size.
Yeah, very small. So,
But wait, while we're just interrupted for a second, I wanted to point out, Charles, that there's the blue paint over there.
Still there.
That woman Diana had put down there. Why do you suppose Mayor de Blasio has terminated the repainting of this graffiti?
well, he's waiting for the permit to be effective, I'm sure.
Right.
Because he's a man of the law.
Now it's just a big mess. This is terrible.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying about
Yeah, so
Valerie
so
Jarrett.
on May 12th, 2009, this is after
Let's just get a picture of you in front of Trump Tower, Charles.
Mr.
There we go.
President.
And then we've
Keep
got
up the good work.
sort of more of the regular security back.
So, want to go to Gucci and get some overpriced
I mean, it's amazing
sandals?
how there was just such unrest here like 2 weeks ago, and now people are like, that's fine. Let's just wait in line for Gucci.
Let's spend $1,000 for a piece of plastic sandals that say Gucci.
Look at that
on them.
Rolls Royce over there.
Where?
Thing looks ready for battle.
So, May 12th, 2009, the Clinton Foundation signs a fraudulent amended Form CHAR 410-A. And this is a form that basically you're supposed to file before you solicit in the state, which gives the crucial information about your organization. And that form says that they began, what's this all about?
What?
That guy with the box there just got out of the Rolls Royce.
That Rolls Royce is very weird.
Yeah.
Who, this guy with the box?
Yeah, leave it alone. I don't want to. Yeah.
Wait a minute now. These two guys with the Mott's applesauce box and the huge bankroll who look like they're 14 got out of that Rolls Royce?
They walked up to that Rolls Royce, and then the Rolls Royce gave them something and left.
Holy cow.
And you have it on film. So
I don't think I was looking at the Rolls Royce at that moment.
Well, so let me just continue
Sorry.
the story. It's okay. So on this form submitted under penalties of perjury and across state lines, it says that the Clinton Foundation began activities in New York State on August 10th, 2001. But as I pointed out in the tweets, the FBI, the vaunted FBI under George W. Bush and under not quite Robert Mueller at this point, February 15th, 2001, page 66 and 67 of part 1 of the FBI vault file that's online, state that an investigation was opened February 15th, 2001, a preliminary investigation into the Clinton Foundation soliciting donations, I think, in New York in February 2001. Now, is February 2001 before August of 2001, Jason?
If we're not talking about leap year, yeah.
So, and in this, there's page after page, date after date, February, March, April, May, June, July, all kinds of FBI meetings with the substance redacted.
Right.
And missing pages.
Yeah.
So a lot of activity happened involving the Clinton Foundation in New York prior to August 10th, 2001.
That they don't want you to know about.
Right. That the investigation, investigations which were in theory open in January 2016, had the ability to go into the FBI files and read the stuff that had been redacted. So you have that lie. That, under penalties of perjury, May 12th, 2009, who is the Attorney General of New York at this point? Andrew Cuomo.
Cuomo, right.
Right? So you have a New York State document that is an obvious lie, contrasting with an FBI document that's full of lies, all of which in the FBI investigation was mounted from what state? New York. New York Southern District and Westchester. So there's a
Should we
whole
slow down for a
yeah,
minute?
yeah, just for a second. There's a whole bunch of incriminating information that's in the public domain that is yet to be explained. And, is Tish James looking at that? No, she's going after the Trump Foundation. She's going after Steve Bannon, Tish James being the Attorney General of New York State. Is the mainstream media looking at any of this? Of course not. There's obvious reasons to go after the Clinton Foundation. Going back into the 2008-9 timeframe, On December 12th, 2008, the Arkansas office of BKD
Oh yeah.
tendered an audit. They dated December 12th that is riddled with mathematical and other errors. It is, grossly negligent, reckless beyond belief. And the Clinton Foundation, of course, had a big problem on December 12th. They couldn't let the mainstream media, who were critical, some of them at that time, of Hillary Clinton. Remember, this is bitterly divided 2008. Hillary had nearly beaten Barack Obama. Hillary partisans had bad blood with Barack Obama, and similarly, Barack Obama partisans didn't like the fact that Hillary was getting this plum job. So there was a risk, albeit small, that the journalists would have gotten to the bottom of several scandals that were maturing at this time. So they hire a firm that is not authorized to do business in New York to make representations to the New York Attorney General.
That's BKD.
No, this is a firm called Nonprofit Service Corporation or something like that. And that firm sends a letter after December 12th, 2008 saying...
Are they lawyers or what are they?
Well, some of them are lawyers, others are just administrative types.
I ask though, Charles, because in my experience, when you ask a lawyer a question about some state other than where they're embarred, they're very reluctant to answer it.
Well, not this firm. This firm is a specialist in pretending that it's a law firm. You'll see they've done this in many different states when the Clinton Foundation historically has gotten in trouble. They'll send letters that makes it seem like it's a law firm, with arguments. In this case, they say, we're sending you everything but our audit, because our auditors have yet to complete the audit. This letter is dated like the 13th of December. The audit is dated the 12th of December. Right. And nobody said, goes to the Nonprofit Service Corporation, drags the guy who signs the letter by the scruff of the neck and says, listen, bitch, what was going on here?
Or similar.
Or, nicely. I mean, I left out the word effing.
Yeah.
So, the public record that's out there is so transparent and obvious that a bunch of people in the FBI and in political land decided that it was in their interest to have dirt on the Clintons and have Hillary as Secretary of State, maybe to have dirt on the Bushes, have him be president and then Obama, dirt on him, and sit in the background and manipulate the American government, manipulate the contracts.
This is what they do.
Yeah, well, and that stuff's got to come out now. It's got to come out now.
I just saw Victoria's Secret somewhere.
Right there. It's the secret where it is.
But it's totally boarded up.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
This is St. Patrick's, where they've had everything seems to be either boarded up or
fenced off.
Lots of police.
Well, it looks like people are going in there, though.
It is Sunday.
It's hard to really get a gauge on what's going on, Charles. It feels maybe less crowded around here than it has been previously.
Well, again, this is the. I
really don't think the cops should be using their mobile phones while they're on patrol. They should be paying attention to what's going on.
Oh, Jesus. Why? I mean, they only get mammoth pensions.
But I think I heard Bernard Kerik talking about that, or maybe Rudy Giuliani. Like, these are the type of rules that affect the effectiveness of the police force. If they say you're not allowed to use your personal cell phone, that's different than if they say, hey, listen, when you're on patrol, just be like totally on Twitter and not paying attention.
Text your mistress. Make sure your wife doesn't find out about it. Yeah, it's not good.
It's super hot here. Should we want to go into
Rockefeller? Let's keep going down Fifth Avenue.
Okay.
But because I think further down we're going to see more boarded up stores. But I agree, let's stay on the cool side of the street.
So all that's going on with the Clinton Foundation.
And nobody sees fit to do anything about it. And it's never been, you could have gone back, right, when he was president. And if you wanted to set up something that was going to do international work, you could have amended your Articles of Incorporation when he still controlled the IRS, through his appointees, and when he still was president of the United States after he was acquitted in the Senate. You could have cleaned all this stuff up. And he's supposed to be such a smart lawyer.
Should we do a round through here and come
Sure.
back out just to see what we got? Because this should be crowded on a summer Sunday.
Excuse me.
And it looks like the Lego store is back open, so perhaps we'll see the FBI
whoa.
around here.
Yeah. Director Comey needs
Yeah.
some extra pieces for his Star Cruiser engine set.
Yes.
But what were we talking about before? Sorry. I
Well,
lost
that non-profit, non-law firm writing letters and on behalf of the Clinton Foundation that aren't actually lawyers, but they're the non-profit.
Well, they're sent using the mail, and they're false, materially misleading, knowingly false, meant to deceive, and used to make the argument, or to obstruct the possibility. It's awfully hot here. Obstruct the possibility of getting to the bottom of why you shouldn't have Hillary Secretary of State.
Isn't this usually a restaurant when it's not the ice skating thing?
I don't know there was outdoors a restaurant, but yeah. Let's get in this.
Yeah. You go that way. So they've put masks on these sculptures.
Yeah, I'll make sure they won't get coronavirus.
Well, I think it's just a subliminal, sort of reinforce in your mind everywhere you look that that's what they want you to do.
Yeah.
How do you like that Citroen coffee bus?
Probably the coffee probably tastes like gasoline, French gasoline.
Well, it'll be interesting, Charles, to see if there are, in fact, indictments coming down on the 15th.
By the 15th, yeah.
At this point, I mean, I feel like I've heard this is coming, that is coming.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it's people were discussing with me the idea that to get an indictment, to turn an indictment into a conviction against a Democrat in a Washington, D.C. setting is virtually impossible.
I believe it.
To do the same for a Republican is a near certainty. So the question is, how do you get these matters adjudicated outside Washington, D.C.? And some people are mentioning that it is significant that Brennan was interviewed in Langley, which is in Virginia, not in Washington, D.C. Now, the Eastern District of Virginia was not exactly helpful in
No.
exposing the Clinton Foundation, but there are
The rocket docket, Charles.
some Republicans, conservative Republicans in Virginia, so maybe that's a good thing.
I don't know. I've had some experience in the district court in the Eastern District of Virginia.
Is that Richmond or where is it?
The one I went to was Richmond.
Uh-huh.
I didn't enjoy it.
You didn't? You wouldn't recommend it?
I mean,
Periodontists.
Yeah, it's somewhere on the spectrum between death and a colonoscopy. Although I haven't experienced either of those. I've heard they're pretty bad.
Most people have not lived to tell the tale of the
Yeah.
first one. So certain religions suggest that they have, but anyway.
Well, Charles, Donald Trump has been speaking a lot about how, I like this aspect of him. He's saying like NASA runways were dilapidated.
Right.
So they renovated them and they're renting them to billionaires.
I
People
like
are
that.
going to go to Mars. We're definitely going to Mars.
Not me.
Somebody else. But perhaps, Charles, he could, if there's not a favorable jurisdiction in Washington, D.C., maybe he could send Hillary Clinton to Mars and
That'd be
do a
good.
trial there
Yeah,
with the children from NASA that somebody, I forget who, claimed that they have.
yeah.
Are those
So-
viewers? They're waving at us.
Where?
Somebody in that Mazda.
Oh, nice. So I bought Webster Hubbell's book, and I keep forgetting to tell you this. Webster Hubbell, Bill Clinton, and you have something in common.
We all have hair.
No.
What?
Webster Hubbell and Bill Clinton. Webster was basically acting head of the Justice Department without a confirmation in the very beginning,
Right.
and he was put in to get on top of the Justice Department, make sure to bring it to heel, figure out what the exposure areas were. And he, in a playful moment, he asked Bill Clinton, what are the two most important things he'd like to know that are in the Justice Department files?
Yeah.
And the answers were,
Who
according to
shot
what-
JFK?
Who shot JFK was number one, and what does it say about aliens? Space aliens.
Whoops. I have a feeling Clinton probably knows who shot JFK. I've told you the unverified story I heard that Bill Clinton, as a young Democratic aide, drove Hale Boggs to the airport in Alaska on the flight that he went on that he was never seen again. And for people who don't know who Hale Boggs is, he's the one guy on the Warren Commission who at the end of it all said, you know, I think it's possible maybe we didn't quite get that right. And they were like, oh yeah, Bill's gonna drive you to the airport, Hale. Yeah, right over there. Just in that car right over there.
Yeah, take that plane
Yeah.
to the bottom of the ocean.
Now, you know that scene in Goodfellas where Robert De Niro's like, I got some nice dresses just down the block down there. And she's like, look, where, here, Jimmy? He's like, no, keep going, further down, further down. She's like, I gotta go, and she runs away.
Yeah.
Similar kind of deal with Hale Boggs, I think.
But now Hillary is making comments that are just, even for her, beyond the pale. She said that that under no circumstances should Joe Biden concede.
Even if he loses, I mean, what kind of statement
yeah,
is
under
that?
no circumstances, because the election's going to be rigged against him, and he should just wait it out, basically.
Against Joe?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
And so she took a lot of crap for that, including from a French politician who said that she is behaving worse than the Taliban. That got picked up by Fox, actually.
Well, I agree with that. Hillary Clinton is worse than Charles. Look at this. So we've noticed this last week, but this.
The Louis Vuitton section?
Yes, the stolen counterfeit goods shopping district has expanded.
That's right. I think they're going to have to revise GDP to put the economic consequences of this activity in. These are young entrepreneurs. It's an enterprise zone. That's another thing I noticed, actually. I was going through the Clinton Foundation website, and it says, I think they have a new tagline. It's something like promoting economic empowerment. And I
This
see
white van from New Jersey, sorry.
that's Florida.
Florida, right. Evaluating the fake Louis Vuitton bag. Why do they need a passenger van?
Who knows?
Seems weird. I just got
It's odd.
blasted
I mean,
in
this
the face
isn't the
with
kind of
diesel.
stuff that's, you're a landlord, you own these buildings, you're trying to charge these fancy stores a lot of money, and you're real happy to see this many entrepreneurs on
Your
the street.
customers counterfeit products?
Right. It really makes your heart sing.
So that's what I mean. Like, those people selling that would say, oh, this is a victimless crime. Or they're stealing from some rich brand, so they deserve it or whatever. But I mean,
Probably saying, you're lucky we didn't break your windows.
something like that. This is a bad zone. We get a lot of radio interference
Okay.
here on the mics. People are probably unhappy with our audio right now.
All right, well,
Let's
bear
make
with
a
us.
right if we,
We're just going to go south on 5th.
Okay.
That's okay.
Okay, I think we're breaking free of this soon here.
Good. Wear a face covering. We could
Well-
probably go for it.
So what else is on your mind, Charles?
Well, this is the last week. We have Labor Day is a week from Monday. So those families who can get out of their hometown are probably at a hotel or a weekend place or whatever, savoring the last bits of the summer if they can do that. Alternatively, they're busy preparing for school. And we have, of course, the irresponsible teachers unions arguing that school shouldn't open. It's really
Do you need
nice.
some tape? Or whatever that is?
I don't know, just throw that shit anywhere. I mean, it's better. Garbage everywhere, by the way.
I know.
More handbags. I wonder how they parcel this out. They probably have like a consultant that tells you what rag you should put all these fake bags on.
I was going to point out to you that I noticed that one of those I Love New York stores with the doors wide open had two of these things flanking it, and I was
Right.
thinking, I bet you
Was it a
the
connection?
merchandise is stored in there and they don't want to sell it in the store because you could just, a guy on the street, you take the stuff away and that's it. If it's in the store, you could maybe close down the whole store.
Yeah, I mean, Giuliani days, they would just round this stuff up.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is if you create a business and it becomes successful, it's okay to steal from it.
Well, they've got insurance, Jason. Did you hear? Right? They argue, I can steal, I can loot, they have insurance.
I mean, it was sort of like when they had that thing Napster, you know?
Yeah.
It's cool for a couple of months to get every song that you ever want, but when you stop and think about it,
Right, you're stealing.
you're stealing, and eventually no one's going to want to go into the business of making music because there's no money in it, and then the industry dies and you get nothing.
Yeah.
Whereas if everybody kind of, you know, pays a fair fee for a fair product, then that problem goes away.
Now we're going to be walking by a street thing here that probably
Street thing?
people performing on the street.
It's okay. Sounds
So
like
it
it's gonna
doesn't have much of
monetize.
doesn't have much of an audience.
Yeah.
Here we go.
It's for you, Jason.
I was pretty
Get out,
surprised.
Go do your breakdancing.
Right now, I'm not interested in that.
You're pretty good, I hear.
Charles, we forgot to discuss today's That's funny. I just switched to the artwork, and that prompted the sound problems. Just stand by just a second. Anyway, Charles, the movie for today is Bill and Nearly Dead.
Face the music.
Yeah, let me get our audio back here. I don't know if we can be heard now. It's funny, it's behaving differently than it normally does. I can't hear us. Now I got us. So yeah, Bill and Nearly Dead Face the Music, which I wanted to make that the movie for today, Charles, not only because it's super difficult to tell if Joe Biden is actually
Alive?
yeah, a living specimen, but also this Bill and Ted movie, I think, represents basically what's wrong with Hollywood. They've taken a, 31-year-old concept that
Was it
arguably,
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure or something? Yeah.
yeah, released originally 1989.
Wow.
So that unknown movie, you know, prior to digital film distribution, prior to, 1989, you didn't even necessarily have the mall-based multiplexes that
No,
came
not at
about
all, no.
in the 90s, in the 2000s, and that movie, in its opening weekend, made $7 million.
This recently or way back
No,
when?
in 1989. So
Wow.
I mean, and even with the inflation and the cost of ticket prices going up, that's a bit of a huge amount of money. And I mean, the movie became kind of a cult classic. They made a second one, and now here they finally have the third one. I didn't see what the box office numbers were for this, but
Careful.
it also opened simultaneously in video on demand, something that movie theater owners have been fighting tooth and nail, that they don't want that. And Hollywood studios have wanted for a long, long time to have that, what they call day and date release.
These swarms of kids.
The bicycle gangs.
Yeah.
Look, what's this guy signaling to them? You see that?
Very authoritative.
Yeah. Anyway, it just, it seemed to me that this movie and also the new X-Men franchise movie, The New Mutants, which that X-Men movie opened with $7 million this weekend. I mean, that's a disaster. 1 year ago, the previous X-Men movie opened with $32 million, and it was deemed the biggest financial disaster for an X-Men movie so far.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to tell us that $7 million, that was a good opening.
Well, because people are social distancing, Jason.
Well, the movie theaters, I just don't think it's a viable business anymore.
Well, by social distancing, what it really means they're not going to the movies. That's the way they're social distancing.
Why would you, though, if you think about it? I mean, of all the things that you could do, the experience of watching a movie in your home, I think depending on the theater you go to, very easily could be a better experience in your home.
Well, by definition, will be a better experience.
I mean, there was an argument for a long time that the big screen and the better
Air
picture
conditioning.
quality and all that.
In the days when people didn't have air
gone.
conditioning, the movie theater would have air
I
conditioning.
mean, that's what I mean. It's an antiquated business, and frankly, I think so is Hollywood, and frankly, I think so is television. When you consider the type of content that can be created by people like us who aren't under contract with some billion-dollar thing telling us what to do and what to say, and
Right.
not having to have the multi-million-dollar studios and all that, we can produce content that a lot of people want that mainstream television might not be producing. And I wonder if the president of the Emmys is irritated by that and trying to stop us from doing it.
Could be. Could be. Hey, we're walking by here. This is the world headquarters of Lord & Taylor, which went bankrupt and is liquidating all their stores.
Well, it's got nothing to do with my grandmother. She worked there before Bill and Ted's movie came out.
So yeah, this is now getting into, it's nice addresses and well known,
Oh, jeez.
but the handwriting's on the wall for this part of New York.
Speaking of handwriting on the wall, Charles, look at that.
That's free FIU shots, not flu. F it up shots
Oh, the fine print, Charles.
with most
Nothing
insurance.
is free. Nothing is free.
Right.
So see, that's the model, right? They want a new type of
Free,
annuity.
put a chip in your shot.
Well, no, I mean, look, they've got a climate right now where if somebody came out with a shot, I think you'd be hard pressed as a medical insurance company to not
Cover it.
to be like, no, we're not covering that shot.
We're not gonna. It's gonna be free. You're just gonna raise your insurance rate by $1,000 a year.
Well, that's the part they don't tell you about. So they advertise that it's free. The pharmaceutical company loads up CVS or Walgreens or whatever that was with all these shots. People walk around on the street getting afraid that they're going to get coronavirus. They see free and they say, all right, give me the shot. And meanwhile, it's just a scheme between the pharmaceutical companies and the insurance companies to sell a lot of stuff that you may not need.
It's kind of like Alexa, kind of like, the other. Take this free gadget, put it in your house, and it'll do good stuff. Like tell headquarters exactly what you're doing every second of the day.
But not only that, Charles, was it Walgreens or somebody just bought Aetna?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you own Walgreens, which is the retail place that's giving out these shots, and you own Aetna, which is the largest insurance company that's deciding whether or not they insure these shots, can't you then also buy a pharmaceutical company and have a little triangle trade of your own going on?
I don't know, but maybe.
Or even if you don't, can't you just tell the pharmaceutical company, hey, we own the retail outlet and the place that's going to pay for it, so just sell us a ton of these shots?
Yeah, probably.
Seems sketchy to me, Charles.
It does indeed.
I'm no business genius, but
Pretty good.
sounds like a scheme.
A sheen.
Well, Charles, what else have we got for our viewers today?
We've got an election cascading towards us. We've got races tightening in the key swing states. Most recently, 6 what are called iron country mayors in Minnesota.
Is that mining stuff?
Well, yeah, where they mess around with iron mining and metal bending in Minnesota. Mayors in these traditional Democrat strongholds have now come out swinging in favor of Trump. And I think you're going to see, the news is going to now be that Trump has got not insurmountable, but he's got the momentum on his side, and Biden's going to have to produce a miracle.
Oh, but he already said there's not going to be a miracle, Charles.
I know.
Biden sternly warned us of that. It was almost as compelling as Kamala Harris going on Stephen Colbert or whatever his name is.
Carmela Harlot, you mean?
Yeah, and telling him these riots are not going to stop. I'm warning you.
Yeah.
What did she say? She basically was threatening.
And here we have the signs of the benefits of technology here. People walking carts around. It's obviously an improvement over what life was like 100 years ago in New York, where people were walking carts around.
This place used to sell gifts and toys. That's closed. T-bar.
Soon we're going to probably have horses come back. It'll be AOC, sustainable energy. sustainable transportation business model, horses and donkeys. And then we can tear down a bunch of these buildings and put farms in, inner city farms, to create food for the donkeys and horses.
I'm very surprised all these places are closed, even if it's just for the day, because, I mean, this is the type of day that you would expect them to be open. And there's another one of those weed trucks, Charles.
Yeah, well, that's important business. I mean, here in New York State, the weed stores are open.
But they're not legal. There is no legal weed store. That place has a
Well,
weed store, but I don't understand how.
Certain, you got what? You got the liquor stores are open because they're essential. The churches and synagogues are closed because you wouldn't want people to go there.
Can't be inside a restaurant.
So just back on the prognostication, though, you're beginning to see where it was a foregone conclusion that we all would have to kneel down to AOC and the progressives and give away our wealth and cancel the last 4 years and redo everything.
Sorry, Charles. Quick correction. That's the mitzvah tank, not the weed truck.
Are you in the tank for the mitzvah tank? Yeah. Kosher food on board.
Yeah,
There's a shock.
no thanks.
But now in places like Michigan, there's a very promising African-American Republican candidate for Senate who was going to lose in theory. So the Democratic bigwigs said, what?
These metal things are new. When did they install these metal things?
I actually just started working here, so I can't give you the exact date.
What's that?
When did they install these barriers?
I want to say maybe a couple of months ago. It was on the works for quite a while.
Oh, yeah?
They're all over Times Square too, but different shapes.
To prevent people from driving a truck
Well, I
bomb.
don't know if you heard in the news. Sometime in the summer, there was a car that went up on the sidewalk and I think killed 1 or 2 people. So I guess they're putting ballots everywhere.
No, stay safe.
Yeah. How's the traffic up at the observation deck? Is it open?
Pretty light. Pretty light.
So it's a good time to go if
Yeah.
people haven't been there. Thanks.
Again, stay safe.
I do love going up on the Empire State Building, Charles.
Do you really?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's.
I'm not
I
a
like it.
huge fan of heights. So,
Well,
and have, getting stuck up there and having to walk down.
there's nothing to fear from heights, Charles. It's the ground you got to watch out for.
Hence my fear of heights. Now,
It's a reasonable thing to be afraid of.
yeah. So the first place I, got an extensive banking relationship is with Worry American Bank, the Worry America Bank.
Don't worry, America.
Yeah, talk about a bad name.
I think it's got to be Korean because this is a very Korean neighborhood.
Yeah, but I mean, this talk about a bad name.
But something about that logo looks Korean to me.
Yeah, it's definitely, this is Little Korea right here. So Worry America Bank, that's a great name.
Yeah. Worry
Great
about everything
name.
bank. And then Hami Bank, also probably
That's
Korean.
Korean. It's like the famous bank. I think we've talked about this before, but there really was a Japanese bank that changed its name from, Third Mechanical and Chemical Bank is pleased to announce that its new name is the Tomato Bank. Seriously. I looked at this, it was the Wall Street Journal, and I happened to be working for a large Japanese bank at the time, and I said, what the hell is this all about? And then I look at the text, it was, back in the days when Japan was going to dominate the world.
Yeah.
They had this extensive explanation where it said, like the such and such, like the tomato, the tomato bank is neither a fruit nor a vegetable, it's a this, it's a that, it went on and on and on. So I went into the senior Japanese bank executive I was working with. I said, can you please explain this? He said, oh yeah, Charles, very simple, it's genius. You have a bank like this, so we're just emulating.
Tomato bank?
Yeah,
What?
the famous American bank. The Mellon Bank.
Oh.
I said, Shinji, the Mellon Bank is spelled M-E-L-L-O-N. It's not
his
named
name.
it's not named after a fruit, you moron.
They're like, oh.
Oh.
I'll tell you what, I think it probably makes a lot more sense in Japanese.
But can you imagine the number? When I was working with the Japanese, you'd have pre meetings to discuss what you were going to do at the pre meeting, and
I find that with Europe as well.
yeah, how many meetings they had to decide, to rename this thing to the Tomato Bank.
The other thing, Charles, is that we saw another GNC back there closed. It seems that GNC, as a corporate entity, has decided to close most of their
Really?
New York places. This entire building is for lease. I've seen 2 or 3 other GNCs closed. Here's a retail space for lease.
I think this used to be Willoughby's, didn't it?
Maybe, yes. Correct.
It's where I bought my first and only Nikon
But it went out. Willoughby's went out.
a while back.
Yeah.
It's relocated here in the city. I think I walked by it on, I forget where.
I think stores like that have a hard time right now.
But look at this area. I mean, are you going to spend real Benjamins on a store here? You know, are you going to try to meet us underneath the scaffolding, you know, past the hobos and the garbage piles, and pay us a full price, you know, for a hat or a pair of shoes or a suit? I mean,
Well, you know, Charles, there's a brand of high-end glasses called, like, I think Wood and Gold is the name of the brand. They could rename this Wood and Crap because that's all that's around.
yeah. Or you could go to the Arthur Murray Dance Studio. I suppose you could turn this into a graffiti art fair or something. And
Old fashioned.
And then, you know, this building here, 277 Fifth Avenue. That's a very expensive condo building, or it was.
Wow.
An aspirational.
They put the ass in aspirational.
Right. And this is not the North Korean affiliated Dogs Bagam restaurant, but you saw it's really sad announcement last week of North Korea, right?
What was that?
Well, the government said, you know, we don't really have a food problem or anything, but we want you to turn in all your dogs.
Yeah.
And don't expect to see them again.
What's happening with Kim Jong-un? That
Supposedly he's in a coma, yeah.
But how? Like what? He's like 30-something.
No, is he 30? He didn't, I mean, he was kind of on a
Pretty young,
Marlboro and cognac diet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Even so, I know guys in their 40s who do that. And
He was anxious, Jason. He'd have trouble sleeping, thinking about all the people he killed and had whacked.
I guess that could weigh on you.
Yeah, maybe. A bit.
Charles, it feels like this is a building that was there until recently.
Yeah, do something. Defund. Yeah,
But look at that. Flagship retail available. That retail available.
Nothing available. Nothing here.
I mean, if you were the contractor about to start building this, wouldn't you be like, wait a minute, maybe we should just take whatever losses we have now and walk away from this?
Yeah, you go to Florida. Right?
I don't know.
This is a place that normally has a large line.
Sample sales always. People go nuts for that.
Space for rent. I mean, this is the turn from March 16th, March 15th to today, before and after pictures. I mean,
15 days to slow the spread, Charles.
yeah, right.
6 months to end.
Oh yeah, glad
The
you brought
economy.
that up. You saw we didn't touch on this, I don't think. The CDC over the weekend
Yes.
quietly revised. You and I have both been hounding this issue that, you know, it's not how many people died with, you know, somehow connected to COVID. It's how many people died primarily or exclusively to COVID.
Right.
And where the number of deaths was up at 180,000, the CDC, not, you know, Fox, not
Some
right,
scientist in
right, yeah, not
Uganda.
Fauci. The CDC itself, not the WHO, has revised the number of primary COVID deaths to less than 10,000. It's either 9 or 6, I forget which. And, you know, I think with that, there should be an inquisition in the House and the Senate of Fauci and Birx and as you say, 15 days to slow the spread. I mean, what the hell?
They
Yeah.
should make someone Spanish do that inquisition. I think they're really tough about that.
Yeah. Or they should have Kimberly Guilfoyle conduct it. I mean,
Exactly.
sadly, I mean, she can be amusing, but I think she got a little full of herself. And her speech was, I think, universally panned at the Trump convention just because she was yelling and screaming at the top of her lungs.
Excited, I
Yeah.
guess. I don't know. I thought Herschel Walker was great. I saw the speech with the parents of the girl who was killed. I forget the guy's name. Is he a Congress member in the wheelchair who stood up? Or
He's
running for
he's
Congress?
running. He will be the youngest. That was a really
That was good.
well. The contrast that was important there. Obviously, it's a terrible situation he's in, But instead of deciding that everybody in America should be in a wheelchair
Or kneel.
or kneel, his attitude is, I'm going to try to do something productive, and I'm not going to complain. He wasn't complaining, and I think he's wise beyond his years, and he certainly will be elected. He's running to fill Mark Meadows' seat. He'll win in a landslide. And I was struck by the number of people drawn from all walks of life who were in the big tent that has become not the Republican Party, but the Trump Party.
Well, also they were outside having an event, and some CNN doctor was very troubled by it, but he's all right with the riot down the street. Did you notice that huge line over there, Charles?
What was it for?
230 Fifth Avenue, a rooftop bar.
Uh-huh. Were they social distancing?
I don't think so, but that's a very obnoxious bar.
Yeah. Some
Super overpriced.
poor girl jumped off the top of that thing and killed
Off
herself.
of that?
Yeah, not last year or...
Wow.
Now this is interesting and unlikely. You're in Moscow, Almaty, Yerevan, Long Island, St. Petersburg, the Ivory Coast.
Well, Long Island is definitely up there with the...
Do you think the person in charge of site selection is
Dubai.
into the weed and sits there and smokes a bunch of it and throws a dart at a globe and says,
Why would you even include Long Island in
or
that?
Ivory Coast? I mean, I've been to Ivory Coast once. It's kind of nice, or it was nice a long time ago, 44 years ago.
Yeah. Well, Charles, they are renovating the Flatiron
No, wait.
building.
What does this sign say? Breathe easy and what? Itch less, or does it mean bitch less?
Yeah. What is this all about?
Hudson allergy.
Ah, eat happy. That's interesting.
Easy, less happy.
That's really an unusual thing that I have not seen before. Ground level retail allergist.
Yeah, so this is the building that we were looking at before we got started. That is right next. This used to be Island Records or something.
Really?
Yeah. And this has been a very fancied up building. I think Porcelanosa is some kind of European porcelain company, and that's prime real estate. They spent a lot of money fixing it up. I bet you somebody's going to come in here and do the same thing.
So Island Records. Huh.
I think it was. I may have that wrong. I mean, that's the building has nice bones. It
I
may
wonder
literally
what it
have
was
bones.
originally.
Maybe it may literally have bones in it, but
Right.
Careful, Jason.
Now, then they've got this obelisk, Charles.
Yeah, I guess. So, what do you figure? You want to
Well,
end here,
let's
or do you
take
want
a quick look down at Union Square, and I mean, I guess it's all cleared out, right? I mean, that was supposed to be happening at noon. It's almost definitely going to be gone.
Yeah, I'm fine to just go back and in front of your apartment building if you want to
Sure.
do that, or
Yeah, we can do that.
we go down
I
23rd.
did
or-
have a plan for trying to get the, I think we get radio interference on 23rd.
Okay.
I did have a plan for trying to get the comments today, but the best laid plans of mice and men are thwarted by battery.
the best laid plans of lice and men.
Yeah.
We go
So-
down 24th. if you
Sure.
want.
Any other thoughts, Charles, for
Well,
today?
I think I think that there's a head of steam boiling. I was interested in Trump's comments when he said on Durham on Thursday. He said something like, on Obamagate, they spied on our campaign. We caught them. We have them. And I understand their developments, so we'll see about that. He said something like that, but he didn't dwell on it.
Yeah, he does keep like dropping little hints like that, right?
Sorry? Yeah. And so that I thought was interesting.
Those guys there are Grubhub delivery guys, not a bicycle gang.
Yeah, so this is damn quiet.
Well, Charles, I've been making efforts this week to try to communicate reasonably with the president of television to restore full capability of Crowdsource the Truth. People who are watching us live today, the broadcast began on Crowdsource the Truth 2, the backup YouTube channel, which has a greatly reduced reach in terms of we put out these videos on Crowdsource the Truth 2 less than 1/7 of the people typically see them. So it's a good thing for people to become sponsors on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Then you're going to get the live streams. People can also join, you can subscribe for free to Crowdsource the Truth 2 on YouTube. And that was not struck, so we can still broadcast on that.
Right.
And I'm going to continue to try to negotiate with the president of television. If he decides to be reasonable, we can hopefully get back to broadcasting. But Charles, I have a distinct feeling that the effort to shut down the channel had very little to do with his allegation of a copyright infringement. I still believe it was a parody that I am within my rights to create and to use. And he is insisting on keeping the channel shut down. We'll see if we can move him off of that position. I hope I will be able to.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, I think what's going on now is the other side, that is to say Hillary and Obama and others, are going to try to pre-butt the impact of anything that we've been doing, reaching the courts, reaching whatever ways it might be regulated. And so we're going to see, I think, in coming days, more and more people warn about just how vindictive a re-elected Trump might be, and how dangerous that is, and how he might approach being a dictator, and how it's unfair to go against your political opponents. You know,
Right,
without,
even if they're criminals.
yeah, well, you know, that's exactly what happened for 8 long years and afterwards under the Obama administration, right? So we're going to see those stories pop out. The louder the volume and the more the frequency of those stories, the closer we're getting.
Yeah. Right.
You know, and I think, so that's something to watch for. Another good thing that's happened is that, I guess because we've done enough of these and we seem to get a number of stories way before the rest of the pack does.
I thought that had to do with you being smarter than most people.
No. I just think it's a combination of good timing and a lot of research and you offering us the package up, you know, in a way that's visually and vocally intriguing.
We're a good team.
Yes, sir. You do all the heavy lifting, literally. I
pretty light.
I don't know how you do that for all. Anyway, so let's try not to step in this contribution to sustainable life.
Cute little dog.
Yeah. Really worth buying that dog. So you can, on a nice day here in New York, you can do downward facing dog on the corner of 24th and 6th. Anyway, so we're starting to see this formula. You really that side?
Yeah, because this has got like
Oh,
a
okay.
whole
We don't have the light.
scaffolding that will be encountered by
Now we
the
do.
homeless shelter.
Right. So what's happening is that on the one hand, there are fewer and fewer book reviews
Oh yeah.
that are out there. So, and there are more and more books being written, whether traditionally or audio style. So there's a growing need amongst the limited set of good authors and publishers. There's a growing need for forums like the one we offer on a limited basis, where authors can go and not be cut off after 3 or 6 or 10 minutes, but really get into a book, why it's significant, what may be coming next, what isn't in the book that you should care about, the process of getting the book written and published and sold. So, lost your apple. So we're seeing now, because we've done a bunch of them, more and more people approach us to be on the show. And we're not going to reveal this particular guest, but we have a very strong guest on Wednesday.
It's getting better and better each week.
It really is. And, so it's actually, I find it fun to interact with these people and discuss their books or their accomplishments or whatever their plans are.
I think a lot of people, Charles, were surprised. It wasn't secret, but I think a lot of people were surprised by the revelation from Carter Page that he had been some kind of something at the Council on Foreign Relations.
Yeah, the council, it's funny, I think I mentioned to you that when I was at Dillon Reed, the Dillon family were big donors to the Council on Foreign Relations, and our firm paid whatever it was per year.
Charles, what is this
I don't know,
cause
it's
you to
this
believe?
gentleman's work, I think.
Oh, got it. I thought it fell out of the window and smashed.
Aiming for me. No, so basically, if you're a contributor to the Council on Foreign Relations, you get a lot of invitations to dinners. And so as a young associate, it was an insult to not show up at the Dillon Reed table at the Council on Foreign Relations.
So you've been in there?
Oh, sure.
Holy cow, Charles.
Many times. And it's no, but it's basically, you know, corporations and rich people pay to belong. You hang around with CEOs and world leaders and whatever, and you hear happy horseshit about what they think is going to happen going forward.
But isn't it true that like Henry Kissinger and Zbigniew Brzezinski get in there and...
They're all there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the seat of evil.
Well, but my point is, it's like, yeah, I was 24. It's just an interesting experience when you're young to sit there, and I make the point to say that's what Carter probably went through a similar experience. Only he decided to get a PhD, and if you're going to get a PhD in international relations, you got to have internships with Council on Foreign Relations and other think tanks like that, which are all supported by globalists.
Well, it seems like a good way to get your entree into being a spy. Charles, unfortunately, this is that innovative Japanese restaurant that was open for only about a year where you could actually fish for your own dinner in there.
It's like the Tom Sawyer restaurant. You want your fish for your thing, you can fillet it over here, cook it over here, and after you're done eating it and paying for it, you can wash the dishes and clean up.
But it's closed, unfortunately, and we walked by, I don't think we had it on camera, but we walked by as the guy who barely spoke English told us it was closing permanently. I felt bad because, you know, you come from a foreign country to open some kind of innovative, there's not that many restaurants in New York City where you go fishing for your own dinner, and now there's none.
I think there are a lot of them. They're called the street. You go fish through the trash cans for your old... sadly, you see people who not necessarily dressed as bums looking, you know, plaintively at the trash cans, fishing food out of these trash cans. And,
Yeah.
I mean, to argue as DeCrasio, Mayor DeCrasio does, that he's a success.
No, he's not a success.
Under no circumstances. I mean, there ought to be, you know, worse consequences than just getting voted out of office or even going to prison.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, you were talking before about getting hogtied and drawn and quartered. Maybe they could bring that back. I don't know.
yeah, that'd be too nice, that guy.
Well, Charles, I think we're done here for Sunday. We'll be back on Wednesday. People should go check out that Carter Page interview if they didn't get a chance to see it yet. And we'll have another great one on Wednesday.
Looking forward, Jason. Get home safe.
All right, until then, thanks for watching, everybody.